Now, of course, understanding where speech anxiety comes from is only the first step in overcoming it. The second thing I recommend is practice. Part of being nervous about giving a speech is nervousness about doing a bad job, nervousness about being judged for doing a bad job. So make sure that you have practiced the speech and you know it will go well. I recommend practicing a 5-minute speech 5 times. And when I say practice, I mean all the way through, standing up as if you were delivering the speech to an audience. So practice it for real. If you mess up, keep going because that's what you will do in front of an audience. So I recommend doing a real solid rehearsal all the way through from beginning to end at least 5 times. I don't actually recommend practicing more than that necessarily because it can start to sound a little stale, a little artificial. You do want to keep it spontaneous and natural sounding. One of the things that will help with that is to do some pips. Practice in pieces. So in addition to your 5 times all the way through practice, practice just your attention getter. Then go do something else. Then a little bit later, practice just your transition from your second point to your third point. Then go do something else. Do try to practice every piece of your speech so that you can keep it fresh in your mind. Use positive self-talk. Imagine that you are babysitting a 7-year-old kid, and the 7-year-old kid comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm so nervous. I had to give a speech for show and tell tomorrow." Are you going to say to the 7-year-old kid, "Huh, you're going to suck"? No, no, you are not. Every now and then I have somebody in class will say, "Yes, if it's my little brother, I would totally say it." No, you do not say that. Instead, you would say something like, "You're going to do fine. Practice it for me. Oh, see, that was really good. You're going to be great." But I hear people do this to themselves all the time. They're walking into the room where they're going to give the speech, they're talking to a friend, and they say, "Oh, I have to give a speech today, and I am just going to suck." And I always want to go shake them and say, you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. We believe what we tell ourselves. So if you tell yourself you're going to do a bad job, of course you are going to do a bad job. Tell yourself the truth. I put together a good speech. I practiced it. It's gonna be fine. Now, of course, that only works if it actually is true. If you did not put together a good speech and you haven't practiced it, I'm sorry, you're on your own. But if you did put together a good speech, it's well organized, you practiced it, remind yourself of that truth. Give yourself that positive self-talk. You're going to be fine. Another thing that helps is audience centeredness. The more focused you are on the audience and what you have to offer them, the less room there is in your mind for all of that negativity. So the more you're thinking, did they get that? Oh, good, they laughed at that story. Oh, yes, they understand the message. The less room there is in your brain for, oh, my voice sounds funny. Oh, I hate public speaking, right? So focus as much as you can on your audience and what you have to offer them. You can also do some physical relaxation exercises. One that I like is just make yourself yawn. If you can, here, I'll yawn for you, it'll help. If you can make yourself yawn, that relaxes your throat muscles and it will actually give your voice a more mellow sound. It also makes sure that you're getting enough oxygen, which is important. You can also do mental relaxation exercises like meditation. If you've ever had a yoga class or a psychology class, you may have learned some meditation exercises. Those can be excellent for helping you relax and helping get you into a very focused state. So what you want to do is get yourself very focused and relaxed. Concentrate on your breathing, slow your breathing down, be aware of how your body feels, and then get yourself very focused and imagine yourself preparing and presenting the perfect speech. There's research nowadays that indicates that your brain can't actually really tell the difference between something you physically do and something you imagine in great detail. So if you imagine yourself preparing and presenting your speech, the same parts of your brain light up as light up when you actually give the speech. When you do that, focus on how it feels at the end when you get the applause and how does it feel to have delivered that speech effectively. That mental meditation exercise helps a lot in preparing you for what it's going to feel like to actually give the speech without feeling anxious. I always like to give my students practical tips. Avoid caffeine. It turns out caffeine mimics anxiety. So, for example, caffeine makes you tremble. It increases the adrenaline production. It quickens your heart rate. And then your brain says, uh oh, I'm trembling and my heart is beating fast. I must be nervous. And you become more nervous. So, avoid caffeine on the day of your speech. In fact, if you have test anxiety or math anxiety, avoid caffeine on the day of your math test because that caffeine will make you more nervous. Now, I have some students who are addicted to caffeine and they'll say, what if you can't give it up? Okay, just cut back. If you normally drink 2 cups of coffee in the morning, only have 1 cup of coffee. If you normally have an energy drink, just have a half an energy drink. Just cut back a little bit because on the day of your speech, you already have plenty of adrenaline. You don't need to add to that with caffeine. I also recommend drinking water. You have to be hydrated to give a speech. In fact, if we were giving speeches in class, I would say, notice how many people ask me if they can go get a drink right before their speech, because you will get kind of some dry mouth going on. And unfortunately, getting a drink right before you give your speech doesn't really help that much because it just evaporates. So you do need to drink a full glass of water at least an hour before your speech so that you can hydrate from the inside out. It'll also remind you to go to the bathroom right before your speech, which is another thing that happens when you get nervous. A lot of times you have to go to the bathroom. It's why little kids wet their pants when they get scared. So drink a full glass of water an hour before your speech and then go to the bathroom right before your speech. Now, the last item on my list here is breathe. If you're ever giving a speech and it starts to sound choppy, if it starts to sound choppy like that, you forgot to breathe. You actually have to have a flow of oxygen in order to have a flow of words. So if that ever happens to you, just take a breath. Make sure that you are breathing. Make sure that you're aware of your breathing before you get up to speak. Breathe deeply. Make sure you're getting plenty of oxygen and that you're breathing slowly and calmly. And then when you get up to speak, make sure that you continue to breathe. If you ever get choppy, take a breath.